Today's episode is with Ari Mannis. He's a comedian and podcaster. He actually helped start most of the comedy podcasts in LA. So super knowledgeable guy. Great episode. You're going to love it. Please enjoy.
So. Yeah, I'm a big gear nerd. I have tons of podcast gear and film gear.
Yeah.
It's like what I spend all my money on.
We can. I'd love to geek out on gear.
Big gear nerd. Yeah, I have these same mics. I used to have the H6. I stepped it up now to a F6, which has an amazing feature that you're gonna want.
Okay.
It's not worth the price difference because this is, I think, $350. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
So the F6 is about $650 to $700 depending on what deal is available. But it has one feature. It has 6 inputs, which I don't need. 4 is enough. But it has something called 32-bit float recording. Have you heard of that?
Oh, I was an engineer. I know what that is.
Oh, you know what that is. Okay, so you know.
Some more headroom.
To me, that more headroom, unlimited. You literally can't peak it.
Yeah.
You could whisper and bring it up. It's just you can't fuck up the audio with it.
Oh,
you don't
nice.
even need to do levels. I mean, you still do, so you don't have to mess with it as much. But you could literally, as long as you don't forget to hit record,
you're good.
You're good.
I do.
It's idiot proof.
I do like some post processing in Premiere. Mm-hmm. Do you use Premiere?
Yeah, I use Premiere. I do post processing as well. But with this, like, you still, if I mean, you know what you're doing, so it's probably fine. But if one day you're not watching it and you recorded it too low and you bring it up, you hear that gain.
Yeah.
Or the opposite, which is you can't fix if I was peaking the whole time and you didn't realize till post.
Yeah.
With this, that just never happens.
Not an issue.
Doesn't happen.
Because there's one beyond that has like, is that the one with like the buttons? It has samples. It's like it has mixing level. It's like this big.
No, that one's cool because it's made for podcasting.
Yeah.
But that one doesn't have 32-bit float. So I actually like the F6 more than that one. Because I don't really care about plugging in samples and stuff. I'm not doing that stuff. I just hit record and go with it, kind of like this. So for me, that feature was just like, cool. I'm just stress-free because I'm such a weirdo that when I'm on the podcast producing it, but I'm also hosting it, I don't want to be like constantly glancing over at the levels or like double checking things, which I still do. Yeah. But it just,
I sneak a glance. I'm like, oh, did I press record? Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know how, probably literally half the podcast, even though I know I hit record, I'm like, let me double check that it's recording. And I walk to the camera halfway through for no reason. So,
that's why I turn the things around so I can see that little red dot. I'm
exactly.
At the back of my mind, I know I'm good. But Ari Mannis, thanks for coming and doing the podcast.
Thanks for having me. A lot of big guests on this podcast. I looked at it. I'm like, wow, I made the cut.
You made the cut.
Cool. There's some good comedians on here.
Yeah. On yours as well.
Thanks. Yeah, you ask enough times or enough people. It's like a numbers game. You hit up 10 people, maybe 2 of them are like, yeah, I'll do it.
Yeah, I bet about 50. So I'll ask 2 and 1 will do it usually.
It's crazy. Some of the people that say no are the people I never thought would say no. They're like, oh, I thought we were friends.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I hit up a guy last week. I was like, oh, he's for sure going to want to do it. And then he's like, nah, I'm not really doing podcasts.
Right.
Like,
and then the ones that say yes, you're like, oh, cool. I didn't think that was just a shoot.
Yeah.
A shot.
Even it happened, Troy Conrad, photographer.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So he was on it. And we got into a little thing. We were talking I was like, oh, I wasn't sure if I should ask you. Because he was talking about he wanted to ask someone for something. It's like, you should just always ask. Like, you never know. And sometimes he wanted to do it. And it was just.
There's certain things I'm scared to ask people for.
Yeah.
Doing podcasts or a stand-up show, I'm not scared to ask somebody because for me, I like being asked to do those things.
Yeah.
There's certain things that people ask me for and I'm like, I don't like that they asked me for that.
Yeah.
But like you produce a show. I don't really produce a regular show, but when I did, every comedian in the world was hitting me up for spots. I don't like being asked for spots.
Right.
If you know, especially if they know me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, you know me. I know you want to do the show. That's enough. Show up to the show. That's asking or whatever. Or see me around town. That's asking. I know you want to do it.
Right.
But asking someone to do a podcast, everyone likes being asked to be a star.
Yeah,
it's about be the center of attention.
It's about them. It's going to be edited. It's a moment. I agree with the show thing. And as someone who has a show, it's always that thing. But
some people like it. Maybe you're different. Maybe you're like, I don't mind being hit up. Yeah.
No, I don't think anyone likes it.
Yeah.
And I think what you said is true. It's like if I know who you are and I know you do comedy, I know you want to do the show just based on
right.
that.
Unless you're famous, then maybe they don't. But yeah.
It does actually go. It's like everyone wants to do the show, and then it curves back down. And then like, okay, now these people are too
once
big.
You sell your own tickets, then you don't care as much about
when you're doing theater
spots.
shows and you get whatever spots you want at the 3 clubs.
then it changes.
Yeah.
But then again, there's those comedians that ask everybody for spots without saying names. Then when they run a show, I wonder if they like being asked to do their show because that's how they are. You know what I mean?
I don't know if...
Is this too inside baseball for this podcast?
No, this is great.
Okay.
It's fine. Do you think it's a self-awareness issue?
I don't know because... So for me, there's, we probably have 2 or 3 of the same names in mind. They're like really aggressive.
Yeah.
Hitting you up probably. Oh, I'd love to do another spot. Blah, blah,
I feel like
blah.
one day someone's going to publish the top 10.
Oh, I mean, if they haven't already.
Right.
So those comedians, part of me goes, maybe they're not self-aware, but then part of me goes, well, they are doing a lot of, it does work for them.
Yes.
Because they do more spots than me. So I don't know. It's like a catch-22. You're known as this aggressive guy, but they are getting up a lot.
It does, but then what does that get you? Like if you're talking about your career.
That's the thing. Yeah.
Is it? There's actually this very funny Twitter account I found called like Stand Up Booker.
Oh, I've heard of it. Yeah,
and
I think it's New York, right?
I don't know, but they had this one tweet. It was like, if we just all keep doing each other's shows, we'll make it, right?
Yeah.
So like you can get in this pool of doing all the non-club shows.
It's true,
but then it's like false. False success.
Right. Like I used to run a show at the Hooters on Hollywood Boulevard, which is no longer there. It went out of business.
Oh, the upstairs one.
Before, forget, Stephen Holloman ran it.
Okay.
But before he ran it, I ran a night there.
I only saw Stephen's.
Yeah. This was, I think I might have, how long you been in LA doing stand-up?
I've been in LA a while, but stand-up like 5 years.
Okay. So I'm 10. So I think this was before your time. But I ran a show. I don't know if that sounds like douchey to say before your time.
No, because it was.
You started,
I got to LA in 2006, but I was in music.
Got it. So this is like 2013, I think.
Okay, yeah.
And
before my time.
Before your time. And I ran this upstairs show, and people would hit me up to do the show like it was going to get them a late night set or something. And I'm like, this is a shitty bar show, and you're like being aggressive and weird with me to do this glorified open mic, you know what I mean? Like a booked open mic. So it's pretty strange.
It's like I feel, and you might feel this way too, since COVID things have also changed. Like what are the goalposts now? Like what are we doing? Like is it all online? Like during COVID it was like really the people who leaned into online got a little bit more ahead in a way. They got an online presence.
You maybe got like a TikTok following?
Yeah, like a TikTok following, or they were able to make like funny reels that made their they built their own audience.
Yeah.
And now that's kind of like what we have to do, it feels like. We're audience builders.
I think so. There's still an industry for TV and getting a special and all that, but especially as a straight white man, and that's going to get some negative, some people hear that and it's like trigger words that I'm complaining about being a straight white man. But the industry is pushing diversity very hard right now.
Yeah.
So the opportunities for me, I feel like, is less than it was even 5 years ago, or more competitive. I should say, not impossible, but harder. So to me, in my mind, when I think about how to make it as a headliner or make a living full-time, a good living as a comedian, it's getting an online following and headlining, being able to sell so many tickets that it's just undeniable. Every comedy club wants to book me because I sell tickets for them.
Yeah.
Because right now I'm at that point where it's like any club would basically have me as a feature. Maybe they'd give me a one-nighter if I pushed for it.
Yeah.
But I'm not getting weekends, which understandably so, because no one knows who I am. So they're not going to sell. It would just be their built-in audience. Maybe I'd sell a few tickets, but not enough.
Do you think that path is putting up content every week consistently, regardless of if it's the best or not?
I think there's different strategies. I think that's definitely one strategy people do. I'm pretty picky with the stuff that I put out.
Yeah.
I'll even delete it if I like it and it doesn't do well. So I kind of more going for the post really good content. Hopefully some of it catches on.
Right.
The other method would be getting on a bunch of people's big podcasts. If you're in that Cool Kids Club.
The Cool Kids Club still works. Kind of.
Yeah, it definitely still works. If you get on Rogan 2 times, you're a headliner.
Yeah.
Even if you don't even do well on Rogan, without saying names, because I'm a nerd about that stuff. So I watch.
Do well as in like your performance or the views?
Yeah, well, both. So if you go on, I watch comedians go on Rogan, and there's certain comedians that go on there and kill it, and they're funny or engaging or interesting, and the fans seem to like it. You could see the comments are generally positive, and the like ratio is good.
But this is before Spotify comments, right?
True, but you could still tell if you go to like the comments on his Instagram and stuff. You can still tell whose episode is a hit with his audience.
Yeah.
And if you're a hit, you could potentially be selling out comedy clubs every weekend, small theaters.
Yeah.
And he'll have you back on. You could see it too because he has them back on.
Right. Like it helped Fahim.
But Fahim's someone who, and he's a great friend of mine. I think he would agree with me. Didn't hit on Rogan. His episode was not a hit on Rogan. He wasn't hated or anything, but it wasn't like. I would say overall was not comparing him to like a Tim Dillon or a Theo Von or a Santino or a Tony Hinchcliffe even. His episode didn't hit, but still did a lot for him.
Yeah,
got a lot of followers.
I loved his episode. I texted him a bunch. I was like, those were such good comments.
I'm a big Fahim fan.
Yeah,
big fan. But I would say overall his episode did not pop. It didn't give him that same pop that some of the other ones. But still, and I'm talking about him and he's not here.
Right.
But I bet you he would say it was still a great thing that he did and helped him a lot.
Yeah, I mean his name is bound to come up because one of my popular comments on my channel is, I look like the child of Ari Mannis and Fahim Anwar.
Right. So. I didn't know you got that one. That's cool. Someone knows who I am. Yeah. That's my self-centered brain. When you say that, I'm like, oh, nice. Getting a shout out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can post the content consistently seems to be. And like even I struggle with this too because I've been a little bit like, no, because I come from a bit of a more old school show business where it's like you hoard it and then it's a big event. But I see the people just posting and posting and posting, and it works. Like, it seems to be the new way.
Totally. But I see people who are doing that, and there's certain ones where I'm like, I want to be like that person, and then there's certain ones with my own shit talking brain because I talk a lot of shit, not like out on podcasts, but to my friends and to myself. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be that girl who's just posting garbage every week, even though they may have hundreds of thousands of followers and it's working for them. I'm still like, that's cheesy. I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
Because they're just, when you start thinking to yourself, I have to post every day or 3 times a week or whatever it is, you're going to run out of your A stuff quick. Like for me, I have 25 minutes of material that I'm happy with. So if I did 1 minute a week even, so that's, that would be 6 months I'm out of stand-up clips to post. But if I'm still going for one a week, that means, and I'm not writing a new killer bit every week. So that means at that point I'm resorting. You see these comics who are doing like crowd work posts,
topical stuff,
and there's nothing wrong with it. But I watch it as a critic, and I'm like, I don't want to post like lame crowd work all the time, and I get why they're doing it because now it's money. Now they have a career from it and they're selling tickets from it. So I'm not like hating on them, but I'm like, I don't want to do that. Right.
It's kind of like stripping just for like a few months to pay the bills to stop stripping.
Yeah. And then you get hooked too. It's a drug.
It is a drug.
When you get one viral clip, like I had my best TikTok got 800,000. That was for a stand-up clip. Pretty big. Yeah. I mean, there's people with millions. It's not.
That's a TikTok
so
stand-up
it's all
clip?
relative, but that was a TikTok stand-up clip. It made me go, shit, I got to do this. You get high from it.
Yeah.
Seeing all these comments and likes and going, you're so funny, blah, blah. It's a straight up drug. You get adrenaline from it.
Yeah.
There's highs and lows, and then it starts dying out and you feel a little sad and you're like, it's weird. It's like a weird thing, but social media is an unhealthy drug for sure. And I'm hooked on it.
We all are. And
and everyone is. Even non-entertainers are. Regular people are.
Oh yeah, kids with their moms with their kids. Like everyone loves likes. Like likes is addictive.
Or you see people. I see people from my high school posting like long diatribes on Facebook, like heartwarming stories or sad stories, just for the like.
Right.
And the first time you see it, you go, "Oh, that's sad," but then you see them do it like twice a year or once a month, and you're like, "This person's just hooked on social media. They're hooked on that like high."
Yeah.
And they're just not an entertainer. I could see it.
Well, it's like with politics, with all these hot topics, and
same thing.
Same thing. It's like you get into this, you post something pro or your side or against the other side. It starts to roll, and everyone's like, "Oh, I'm." Then you become that guy. You're like, "I wasn't even that guy."
Oh, you see it with with the news and reporters and writers all the time now. You're seeing these clickbaity articles, these super ultra liberal articles on the internet, and you're like, that person doesn't even believe this. They know that this is going to get tons of hate and clicks, and they're addicted to that, or it's money.
Right.
One of the two.
Are we basically clickbait producers now? Like, because like our little thumbnails have to be like.
I think we are, but like, at least for me in my head, I like to think I'm a clickbait producer, but I'm trying to make content that is actually good.
Right.
Not like clickbait, and then you get tricked into it, and you're like, well, that was garbage.
Yeah, not tricking, getting people to click, but
you're tricking, but then hopefully they like that they got tricked.
It's like a candy bar. It sits there on the shelf, has a nice wrapper. That might be tasty, and it is.
Yes, yeah. It's like a good candy bar, not one from the 99-cent store.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I go to the 99-cent store, and there's certain items where I'm like, that looks good. I'm going to try it.
It's Mickers.
And then you try it, and you're like, that's why it's in the 99-cent store. It's like a little stale.
Yeah.
And something.
Yeah, soda can go stale. I've had some 99-cent store soda. And you're like, why is this? And it's like last year.
Yeah. Or you look at it and it's about to expire. You have like a week to drink it.
Right.
And you get it from there.
Then you got a pressure of downing 16 Cokes in a week.
Yeah. Well, at least you have kids. You can give them expired soda and they still like it.
My kids luckily don't drink soda, which is...
But is that because it's a rule in your house?
I guess because I don't drink it. It's kind of like your kids do what you do.
How old are your kids?
6 and 10.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're an adult. You're like a real adult.
I am a real adult.
That's cool.
You can check out
Not many comics are.
There's some, but they're not that many. It attracts, well, it has a lot of attrition. All show business things do. So it's like a lot of young, and then very few people kind of make it older. That's what someone said about the Super Bowl. It was Ron Funches. He had a great comment. He's like, this is great because you didn't get to see 50-year-old like rappers before make it. Like this is like, and I was like, oh yeah, like because this is a new art form and a new thing.
It's true. That was probably the best Super Bowl halftime show I've ever seen, though. I think with like Eminem and 50.
I put Prince up there as well.
I don't remember Prince's.
Oh, Prince's was epic.
I'm sure there's other ones, but the one is the best one that I remember.
It's the best of the last like however long for sure.
But I did think to myself as they're up there, oh, these guys are not those young bucks. The only one who hasn't aged is Snoop Dogg. He looks the same, basically.
Eminem looked pretty good.
Eminem looked pretty good too.
Yeah.
But he had a beard. He was completely covered.
Right.
So he looked good, but he was also covered. I don't know.
Yeah.
The ones that were like, who was the one who was wearing the sleeveless shirt?
50 or Dre? Or?
50, yeah, I think it was 50.
50,
yeah. You could tell you're like, oh, he's aged.
It was a nice homage though.
Yeah,
like,
no, it was cool.
Because like everything was a music video. Like them standing on that thing was a Snoop and Dre video near that store.
I was at a Super Bowl party, and the whole party, just no one talked about it. Everyone just busted out dancing. I wasn't. I stayed in the back. I'm too shy. But all the girls at the party
during
were
the Mary J. Blige song, obviously.
The whole time they just went out there. They're like fucking dancing and rapping. And
she looked good.
It was
she
funny.
didn't age.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a good show.
Amazing show.
Good sound.
Yeah, really good sound.
I heard it was Jay-Z's production company, and that was his first one. That's what I heard.
Interesting.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I felt the camera could use more movement.
You didn't like the camera work?
The camera work was a little
static. But it was live?
Yeah. I guess not a lot of
If it was a music video, I'd be like, yeah, it could be touched up, but that was a live event. It was pretty good.
Pretty good, yeah. I was looking you up and you skateboarded?
I did.
I was a big skateboarder too.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
I'm more longboarded, which skateboarders are all like, you didn't skate.
Okay, moving on.
I mean, I did skate as well. I could ollie and land a kickflip one out of 30 times.
Yeah.
But I wasn't good.
Right.
I could drop in on a quarter pipe, that kind of thing. But I was never even close to being sponsored or anything like that. But I got into longboarding my later years in high school and college, and I would do like downhill stuff and
like
sliding, carving, but down more like sliding. So when you do get into the real nerdy elements of longboarding, you get really stable, stiff boards, and you could bomb hills and go 40, 50. I mean, the record's like 80 miles per hour, but you're like at that TikTok. Point you're not carving because you're too fast. You're going too fast. So to brake, you would actually put your hand on the ground and slide.
Like, can you turn the board?
Yeah, like it's more like snowboarding.
Yeah, like on TikTok, they're sliding down there, and it's amazing.
So I did that, but I wasn't really good at that either because it's kind of scary and hard, and I hurt myself. Like one time, I fell and just scraped off all the skin on my back. Right? Yeah, I mean it's like snowboarding except harder, and when you eat shit, you're on cement.
Yeah.
So it's way worse injuries. And so I kind of got over that quickly when I got hurt. And then I picked up long distance longboarding, which is exactly what it sounds like.
Is it like
it's like cross-country running. You literally have a stiff board that's low to the ground. It's like a drop mounted. So it's almost like walking because you literally, it's not much effort.
Yeah.
And there's this whole niche community on the internet. Is it niche or niche?
I think it's both. I don't know.
There was this niche.
French or English?
There was a message board which is no longer there called Silverfish Longboarding. It was a forum online, and people would just geek out, kind of like we were geeking out on the equipment, on longboarding components, wheels, trucks,
what kind of urethane?
Hardware. Seriously, urethane. Like the science behind the urethane, the deck, the bushing, because there's different hardness and softness to bushings. What the materials of the deck, the lightness, the kingpin, how the trucks were manufactured. There's cast molding and there's CNC based trucks. So, and that's more what I get into on anything than with comedy, with gear, with longboarding. So that's what I kind of got into. And then I was like, okay, I love longboarding. I'm not that good, but I could do it. So I got into long distance longboarding.
Yeah.
And then I planned this trip from across the country. So I went from Oregon to New York, and then I did another one from Santa Cruz to San Diego. So I would do these crazy long distance.
Yeah.
And I would get a bunch of sponsors because it's like a cool.
And like, are you vlogging it or?
It was this was 2010. So I didn't have that showbiz mindset. I did bring a camcorder and film stuff and made little videos, but it was before vlogging was a big thing, or at least in my world. I wasn't really aware of it.
The universes live separate. It was like YouTube, and then there wasn't the social media to really like glue it all.
Yeah, it wasn't big on. I had a Facebook profile, but it wasn't a thing. People posting, making content. If I did it now, obviously, I would have hired a camera guy.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
The with all these clips and stuff, like people are like, "Oh, the metaverse is coming and it's gonna take over." It's like we're already doing it. Like, you see, we're out to dinner, everyone's on their phone. Like, they're already living in that other world of the likes and all this stuff.
Pretty much. I mean, have you tried the VR goggles? Have you done that thing? It's pretty. When you use it, you say to yourself, or at least I do. I was like, "Oh, this kind of is the future," because like Redband, Brian Redband.
Yeah.
So he does this.
You guys
thing.
work together a lot, right?
We're friends. I've done his shows and stuff. I don't know if I'd say we work together a lot, but like a good friend of mine.
Okay.
And he has this thing he does every night where he just gets drunk and he goes on VR chat, which is this world where everyone's on their VR goggles and you're an avatar. And he's just in this world talking to people, and he just streams it live on his YouTube. And not that many people watch it. He gets maybe 100 viewers a night.
Yeah. That's still big for YouTube starting now. Like, it's so hard to penetrate.
It's weird. Like, it's very nerdy. So the people watching aren't your typical stand-up fans. You watch it, and it's just kind of these ultra niche comedy fans that are into technology. And but it's weird. I went in there with my VR headset, and it felt like I was talking to you, kind of very close. It's close to it without actually doing it.
Is it like the Oculus, or?
Yeah, in the Oculus, because it's literally I turn, and I'm in that virtual world, you see whatever's there. I turn to you and I see your thing. When you talk, your mouth moves. So it's kind of one step further than Zoom calls.
Interesting.
Yeah, because you actually feel like you're in the world.
That could have been like the savior of stand-up during.
They're bad, but there's open mics, but they're better than Zoom shows.
Open mics on Oculus?
There's this thing. So it's the program is called VR Chat.
Okay, I'm gonna look this up.
It's free.
Yeah,
I believe it's open source. I'm not sure.
Can I be like a passive viewer and not have the goggles, or no?
I think there is a version that you could download. It's not cool. It's not nearly as cool though. I would get the goggles. Because you'll instantly be like, whatever, I'm shutting it off.
Right.
But you get the goggles and you can go in the world. You don't have to go up and do it. But yeah, there's an open mic
at fourth wall
level. Probably it feels just like it. And there's someone on stage and their mic is turned up and you're in the audience, and it's interesting. I could definitely see
it's all men.
If it was more popular, if more people had Oculus headsets, it's only a matter of time before a big comedian is like, I'm doing the first ever VR show and I'm selling tickets.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen.
Do you play video games?
A little. I'm not very good, but I have a gaming PC that I built for video editing.
Okay.
So I have some.
You got the setup.
Yeah, I got.
You do go into the. You're like me. We're both like I get into like a creative field, and there's a tech element tied to that creative field, and that takes up a lot of my energy. I'm like, I learn about the components and the gear. That's how I got into engineering. Like, I wanted to do music production, and I was like, but the gear and the board. Yeah. I can learn how all these knobs work.
You know how many things I've convinced myself I needed, and then bought because I wanted the gear, and then just sits on my shelf and I don't use it.
It's a form of collecting.
Yeah. but collecting stuff that loses value quite a bit and gets outdated every few years. And then all of a sudden, I'm replacing this outdated piece of electronics that I didn't use, but I want the new version of it anyway. I'm like, oh, with the new one, I'll use it. And then don't use it.
My friends were trying to convince me to build a gaming PC in the pandemic. They're like, you just I'm like, I know myself. I'm going to drop all this money on it. And I'm just going to.
The gaming PC was worthwhile for me because I use it for video editing. I know you have a MacBook, so you don't need that. But I use it. It's multi-purpose. I have it gaming, for streaming, for video editing, for Oculus. I use it for, so yeah.
I ended up just getting the PS5. I entered into like a lottery for it, and I got it. So I was like, oh, that'll be my my game.
Cool. Yeah.
It's good. It's
it's way cheaper than a PC.
Yeah, it's like $500 $500.
And it ends up being, the thing about the PC is it's technically better than the PS5 as far as graphic power and stuff like that, but there's always little things you got to fix. Like a friend will come over and I'll like, try out this game, and then I'm like, oh wait, the controller's not working, and then I have to take a couple minutes and fix it. It's just not as PS5, you turn it on, you're good to go.
In my youth, I was more PC gaming, and that was the way.
Same thing. As I get older, I just want something that works good.
Yeah, and I have friends, and like we play like a golf game sometimes, and it's I have kids, and we play games together. It's more collaborative.
Agreed.
Collaborative. Like PC gaming is a little bit like secluded.
Yeah, PC gaming is for the nerd that doesn't have friends. That's in their mom's basement.
Yeah, totally.
The old guy, the same guy who leaves nasty comments on people's YouTubes and TikToks is the guy who has a gaming PC.
Do you think that's...
And that's me. I'm that guy.
You're
but
that guy.
I don't leave him bad comments.
I always wondered that if it's like a pro and a con. I have these fantasies of being like the pure artist who doesn't do any of the technical, like I don't know how to do that, and someone else does it. Like you get a producer for the podcast and you do all this stuff. But my mentality's always been like, I'll just do everything. I caught myself last night at my show. I was hosting, like running the show, doing the sound, doing the music. And I was like, this is too much. Like I need to start.
I'm the same way. And you find yourself, at least for me, even though I know how to do everything myself, and I'm such a narcissist, I think I can do it better than anyone else too.
That's
like
the
editing
trap.
a podcast, producing a podcast. Like I know how to run it in my mind. I'm sure there's people better than me, but in my mind, I don't know anyone who could do it better than me. But it's gotten to the point now where I just have too many things going on. When I produce a show, I can't host it. I can't run this out. I rather pay someone and just be more hands off at this point. But at least you have a base knowledge of how everything works, so you know if someone sucks at their job. And that's
which is good and annoying.
It's good and annoying. But at least you know, like, okay, I'm going to hire someone to do this, but if they suck, I'm going to hire someone else. Because some people don't know, and then they're just stuck with someone who sucks.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly people will take you for a ride. They'll just like do a half-assed job, and you just don't know. You're like, okay, I guess that's what it is.
Yeah, if you've never done it yourself, you have no idea to base it. You go, I guess the best microphone for podcasting is a handheld stand-up mic. You know? You just, I guess camcorders are the best. Like you just...
And we just learn from other people. Like I learned from, Tim Ferriss, he put out a whole episode on what gear to buy. And I was like, okay, Zoom cool. H6.
Yeah.
And he uses the handhelds, like the Shure SM58s. And I had two of those already. But then I was like, okay, it's not quite sounding right. And then I got these, and this is way better.
The SM58s sound pretty good. For me, it's it just looks a little lo-fi. I'm starting to get more into the aesthetics of podcasting.
Your aesthetic of your podcast look great with the, the bush.
That's kind of the like
unlicensed therapy.
Unlicensed therapy, but that podcast studio is now making me way more money than.
Is that your
stand-up.
studio?
Yeah, Abby Roberge, another comic, and I started that about 2 months before the pandemic.
Oh, it's smart. So it's basically like a recording studio just for a podcast.
It's a real niche thing. So we're like, should we do just a sound, like a voiceover studio? We're like, no, let's just do podcasting. And I think because of that, when you look in LA, there's only 2 or 3 just podcast studios. There's not a lot.
I think it's Third Wheel.
There's Third Wheel, and there's another one too that I can't remember the name. But there's not a lot of them. So because of that, I think we got a decent amount of business, and it's making more money than my stand-up does now.
Okay, so that's been a big part of. I think everyone needs that thing because like you're doing it some way. Like the stand-up is a love, and then at some point the dream comes true or doesn't come true, and that is a reality everyone faces. And then you have something else. It's like you're an Instagram / comedian. You're an actor / everyone.
Totally.
Everyone has something.
Yes.
And to make it podcast studio / comedian / podcast is fine too. Like that's
it is. It's so I'm still like everything I'm doing, I like doing. I don't have a boss. I'm happy. Do I want to be a touring headliner and be able to go like, screw the studio, I don't need that anymore? Sure, that'd be nice. But it's you got to sit back and just be grateful for the things you do have.
Totally.
And I still get to go on the road and do stand up, and I still have enough money to feed myself.
Yeah.
So am I like the big star that 21-year-old Ari was like, I'm going to move to LA and be a comedian and have a Netflix special? No, that didn't happen, or it hasn't happened. But I'm still doing pretty good.
Someone said a great thing about stand-up. It's either like you're like 18 and like you're the phenom, or you're in your 30s. Like there's like very few, it's like a long grind, or it's like you're immediately swooped up.
Yeah, and I remember so how old were you when you started stand-up?
I was late. I was 37.
Yeah, so you were late. I started at 22, 21, 22. So I was that. Now I was never the phenom, but I was like, I remember being the youngest guy in every room and the new comic on every show.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're in the room, you're like, oh, I've been doing comedy as long as all these people.
And it's like a blink of an eye. I even feel that way,
so
and it's short. I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah. Oh, and every 2 years, like I used to sign up for potluck at the Comedy Store. It used to be Sunday and Monday. And I would sign up both days. So I was there 2 nights a week signing up to try and get up on their open mic. Every week. Like I literally probably missed 2 weeks in the first 3 years I was doing comedy. And then you go there after because then I got past the friends and family or whatever, the unpaid regular spots to the store. And then I went to the open mic one night just to like see it. I didn't know anyone there. I used to go there and know everyone who signs up, all
it's
the
like
regulars.
Your crew.
Yeah, your class of comics.
Yeah.
But every couple of years, it's a whole new crew because people give up. They move upwards.
They die.
Give up at that location. They die. All sorts of. They move back home, and you think, oh, everyone's gonna stick with it. But no, most people, like you said, it's just constantly changing.
Yeah, but it's interesting because like I think a lot of people look up to you and be like, wow, look, Ari's doing all this stuff, and then like there's so many people who want your position now.
Yeah, and that it is. You do come across that like, I'll go do a show. And the host or one of the comics come just to watch, and they come up and they're like, oh, I love your stand-up. And it's weird because in my head, I'm a piece of shit and not even like a real comedian. You know, every comedian's kind of self-deprecating and hates themselves.
Right.
So in my head, I'm nobody. I'm not where I should be, not good enough. And then all of a sudden you have a new comic. They're like, oh, I watch all your podcasts. I watch your videos.
Yeah.
You're great. How do I do this? How do I do that? In my head, I'm like, you shouldn't be taking advice from me. Like, take advice from somebody else.
Unlicensed advice.
Yeah.
Unlicensed therapy.
But so now I'm into the ad side of the business, not even just for my podcast.
Oh, you facilitate ads for your studio.
Yeah. So at the studio now we find ads for people. I literally know, or I'm not saying I'm the best at it, but I have a base knowledge on every aspect of the business. So finding ads, the equipment, producing it, percentage splits, just you name it. So the ads is where the money really comes in, but you need like at least 10,000 listeners per episode.
10,000 per episode. That's where the ads come in.
Yeah, to get consistent ads. And even then, at 10,000, you're getting $200 ad spots.
Right.
So,
and that's 40,000 a month.
That's So 40,000 a month, you might be making $400 a week.
Yeah.
Which is something.
Right.
But if you have a co-host or a producer or other things, it starts
eating away.
Yeah, it starts eating away real fast.
That's where the Patreon for some of these podcasts really pays off.
Yeah, Tim Dillon has the #2 Patreon.
Yeah.
On all of them. Like he makes,
and
it's public. I'm not even spilling his business. You can look on his Patreon. He's making like $200,000 a month on Patreon.
Yeah. I mean, he's a personality. Like he's
great.
Good at it.
So good. But that's insane money.
Yeah.
$200K a month off Patreon.
Yeah, I mean they're doing really well. Stiff Socks is doing really well.
Stiff Socks is Trevor Wallace's.
Yeah, and Michael Blaustein. Mark Norman does really well with his. Yeah. I mean it's like if you build a cult following, it's like it's your audience and
it's great. They're famous people now. It's like having a TV show if you have a popular podcast.
Yeah,
I was opening for Mark Norman, and he just gave me literally a one sentence shout out on his podcast. He goes, "Oh, this weekend I did the Funny Bone. Ari Mannis was opening for me. He killed it." And I got like 20 DMs from people. Heard you on Mark Norman's podcast.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Oh, their podcast is huge. But your podcast, you get great guests too. You had Jeremy Piven on. That was pretty huge.
I've gotten some really good guests. All the big guests I get are like the people who are like on the tail end of their careers, if that makes sense. People who are like falling off the map and they're like, maybe I'll do a podcast. And then they come on to promote their podcast. So I've gotten lucky with like, a bunch of cool guests that like, those are the guests that my parents, it's the first time in my life. Cause my parents, they gave up on me when I was 13. So It's not like they disapprove of what I do, but
13.
Yeah, they sent me away to a military school when I was there because I was kind of this rebel kid too.
Okay.
I was just trying to piss
That's
people
the
off.
sophomore album, Rebel Kid.
Yeah. So
Button Pusher, Rebel Kid, follows it up with.
Yeah. So I don't want to say they're not like they're not supportive. They've never said like we don't want you to be a comedian or anything like that. I don't want to make it sound like I'm going against I don't have supportive parents.
You are.
But yeah, they're obviously my mom's a lawyer, my dad's a doctor, so they were never. They've always made little comments like, you could do comedy as a hobby, you could get a full-time job, you could go to graduate school just in case. They've always kind of been saying those things.
Yeah. I think all parents do it.
Yeah. And they're just, it's out of love. I'm not mad at them for it. But the first time.
I am, but yeah.
You are, even though you're doing great. But the first time that they ever said something to me that they like, almost recognized that I'm like, oh, I guess Ari's doing okay, is when I had like Tom Arnold on my podcast, which to me is like, dude, I've had way cooler people on my podcast. This is a sign
I'm not doing okay.
To me, having a comedian that I look up to, that's a newer, less famous comedian, like Theo Von or Andrew Santino, to me doing something with them is a way bigger deal.
Yeah.
But I had Tom Arnold on, and that was the first time my parents were like, you had Tom Arnold on your podcast?
Yeah.
And I was like, this is the thing that excites you of all the things I've done?
What's your parents' demo? They probably saw Roseanne, or they didn't know of. He was so ultra famous.
Right. So to me, I'll do like open for someone at a sold out theater or get passed at a comedy club. And to me, I'm like, I worked so hard for this.
Yeah.
This is an honor. And my parents are like, Tom Arnold, huh? What was he like? But yeah.
Was the Jeremy Piven thing, was it staged when he was kind of getting like, what are we doing?
Oh, yeah. No, he was really nice. Okay. I was so nervous to talk to him that I called him Jeremy Piven. That wasn't even a bit.
I thought it was a bit.
No, it wasn't. I literally like fumbled it coming out because I was nervous. And that was right at the beginning of the podcast. So then the whole podcast, he thought I didn't know his name, which is funny because I did. Like, I was a big fan.
I made for such a great show though.
Yeah.
It made for like a Nathan For You type vibe.
So right off the bat, he's like, you don't know my fucking name, but he was joking around. He was nice. He was super cool.
Yeah.
I mean, he's a controversial figure, I know, but he was super nice to me.
Yeah. Is it a guy you opened for, or just
no?
A guy
Never opened for him. He was starting a podcast with I think Cast, which is a huge podcast network. Okay. So they were kind of pushing him around on all the podcasts to promote his podcast. And somehow I made the cut. Hey. So it was one of those things where he was on my podcast to promote his podcast, but he was super nice.
Do you have 500,000 subscribers?
I do not have 500,000 subscribers.
Okay, that's what it says on your website, or is that?
Oh, I think on SoundCloud I did.
Oh, SoundCloud.
But that 500,000 subscribers doesn't mean I have 500,000 listeners. Sorry if you had me on because you thought I had 500,000.
No, I didn't. But I was just, I had you, I did all this research like 30 minutes before you got here.
SoundCloud, I don't know if you're on there. I'm not anymore.
I don't promote to there because my podcast never did well on there, so I just stopped.
So I was, like I said, I've been doing podcasting for 10 years now.
Yeah.
When I first started doing podcasting, there was like Libsyn as a host.
I use Libsyn.
And a couple others. Now there's a bunch of podcast hosts to choose from. There's Anchor, which is totally free and owned by Spotify.
Oh, it's owned by Spotify.
Spreaker, which I believe is owned by iHeart. Or no, there's another one, not Spreaker. One of them's owned by iHeart. They're all owned by different major. There's tons of them.
Yeah.
But in this moment, there was like Libsyn and Podbean, and that was it. And so at one point, SoundCloud was trying to get into the podcast space. I think they're almost out of business, but or something's up with them.
They've always been in flux for like the last like while.
But at one point they were like, let's make a run at podcasting. So they reached out to me because I was involved with all these podcasts, and they're like, hey, if you come over to SoundCloud, we'll give you free hosting and we'll promote you. When anytime someone checks that they like comedy, they will automatically be subscribed to your page.
Oh, hey.
So I was like, let's do it. So they gave me like a free premium Spotify or a SoundCloud account. And then anytime someone checked that they like comedy, they would just subscribe to my podcast page.
That's huge.
So instantly I got like 500,000 SoundCloud followers. But that doesn't mean they all were fans of mine.
Right.
Listen, I would just pop up in their feed kind of.
Okay,
but still, it led to like 20,000 listens an episode.
Oh, nice.
Not all of them stuck, as you know, more of them, but a lot. It did get me a lot of listens, so it was cool.
It's like being featured on the Apple page. It gives you a nice little bump.
Yeah, so it gave me a nice little bump. Since then, I think you can podcast on SoundCloud, but they're not IAB compliant, which is something. As your podcast grows, for the advertisers, you need to be on the IAB compliant host. Their technical support is non-existent. Mm-hmm. I would never recommend SoundCloud to someone now, but at the time they were hooking it up.
Which one do you like right now?
There's a lot of good ones. I'm with Spreaker.
Okay.
And because they're IAB compliant and they're affordable and they have a support system, but Anchor's good, Libsyn's good.
Yeah.
Podbean's decent. There's I'm gonna leave a bunch out, but there's a lot of good ones now.
Nice. No, I definitely did not have you on because you had 500,000. But I always liked your pod, and you don't really know what people's what they're doing because these numbers aren't publicly available.
Mm-hmm. And they are on video now, which reveals some of the mystery.
Like in YouTube?
On YouTube.
But I feel like there's such a divergence. Like people can be huge on YouTube, non-existent audio. Mm-hmm. So it's almost like
gives you a taste though.
Gives you a taste. Yeah. Like and my episodes are wild. It's kind of like the thing with a guest-oriented pod anyway. It's like big guest, huge numbers. Mm-hmm. You know, medium guest, maybe. Other guests, sometimes they'll surprise you. You don't really know. Yeah. But I feel like it's more consistent on the audio. It doesn't go around. But on the video, it's like completely guest.
Yeah, it's I think you're right. The video, YouTube, their search engine optimization is very guest. If you have a big guest, it could get clicks, stuff like that. And yeah, when I was big on SoundCloud, it was to the point where there were comics going, "You bought followers." That's what people were telling me. They're like, "We know you bought followers." I'm like, "I didn't buy followers." They're like, "No, you did." I'm like, hey, listen, it's a scam, but I didn't buy them.
Right. No money left my pocket. Yeah. You're right that it's not traditional, but it wasn't anything like that. If you were to give yourself advice, because like you're a very smart guy, I can tell by talking to you, you know a lot about the business. I feel like sometimes we need to get out of our heads and be like, all right, if there was another Ari right next to me, what advice would I give him to get those things you want, to be the headliner?
I guess it is. I think same advice I'd give to myself right now and to anyone. It would be like, be fun to be around, or be cool to be around, and nice and chill. Be funny, obviously. I'd say funny is unfortunately second, probably. I think number one, you got to be
being chill.
I think you got to be good to be around, because you could be, if you blow the roof off every time, but you're a dickhead, people don't want to be around you. You're not going to get booked. It's not worth it. And then be friends with everyone, I guess. Yeah. So that's kind of.
But you already have those things. Like, what advice do you give you?
I don't have any of those. But I think I'm chill to be around.
You're definitely chill to be around. You got the funny.
I'm funny, but I don't write enough. Like, I'm not prolific. I'd say that would be something that I need to work on. I don't know. That's not advice. That's just something I need to work on.
Do you write every day?
Nope.
Get a calendar. It's not working for me, but
I use Google Cal. I have a Cal, but
you make an X. It's the Seinfeld method. You make an X every time. What advice
would I give myself?
Because I feel like we all know it. I feel like this is what separates.
I should have started a podcast right when I moved to LA and kept it going weekly.
You think that would have changed?
Yeah, because like I started one, kind of gave up. If you actually kept one going, because also like it's interesting now that I've been doing it a few years, someone will make it in comedy. And I had them on when they were open micer, and now their episode's doing good.
Yeah, that's happened to me too.
So that's kind of cool to see. Like I had a Chappelle Lacey on before he was on Fighter and the Kid.
Yeah,
and King
same.
And the Sting.
Yeah.
And just because we were buddies. And then now his episode, I go back and it has 4,000 views.
Yeah.
Which isn't a lot, but like it was at 300 views. And all of a sudden.
Right. It spikes.
It spikes. So imagine if I had done that for 10 years, I think that could have
changed.
But it's always easy to go, if I had a time machine, I would have voted for this president, or I would have made a bet on the Patriots or whatever.
The time machine fallacy.
It's always easy to say things like that. But yeah, I'd say stick with it, go for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like this is the hardest thing to get out of in all entertainment. It's like you get known, you get momentum, and then there's like, what's the next on-ramp? Because you're in and around and it feels like everything is happening and nothing's happening at the same time. It's a very challenging spot to move out of in this town.
It's also one of those things where the human condition, you're never happy with what you have.
Yes.
So it's like when I first started comedy as a 21-year-old, I said to myself, if I was touring and made $50,000 a year, I'd be so content with that.
That's all I need.
That's all I need. I'll live. Like, I'll be doing stand-up. I want to have a job. Like, what a great life. And then you get there, but you don't take into account, like, you see all these people pass you by and who you're as funny as. So you're like, well, if they're doing that, I want to do that. And you have natural competitiveness. So you're like, that guy's doing that. I need to do that. And then you get comfortable with where you're at. And you're like, well, now I want to do this. So your goals change.
Right.
If looking back at my 21-year-old self, would probably be stoked with where I'm at now.
Yeah. Like, I'll be 31 and making it.
I'll be 32 and have my own apartment and my own car and be touring on the road with like one of the biggest headliners.
Who's the headliner you tour with?
I mostly tour with Theo, but I go with Norman sometimes, with Santino, like Pauly Shore. I opened for a couple of years. I've opened for a lot of amazing people that I'm huge fans of.
Yeah.
So I think 21-year-old me would be like, you're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, Theo's one of the biggest people you could tour with.
Yeah. Selling out theaters.
Yeah.
Like performing for thousands of people. It's like but in that moment, sometimes it's hard to enjoy that. So I think rather than say like, what could I do to make it? I think you just got to appreciate what you got. And as long as you're not working at McDonald's or have some shitty hourly job that no one wants to have, you're doing pretty good. So even if you're producing on the side to pay the bills, like,
who cares?
Think about how many people would dream for that job.
Yeah.
About how many people would dream to produce a podcast as their job.
Right. This is the existential crisis. I feel like there's a romanticism around all this show business stuff we grew up around. And don't play the game from 2010. Like, I feel like it's so easy to want to do that. And I find myself wanting to do the 2010 version. But if you want
to do it. But that...
No, but like, you have to do it.
You'll get over it. Yeah, I think you will.
I think I will get over it too, because like I did the featuring for big comedians too, and that was great. And then you're like, okay, cool. So now what's the on-ramp after that? And you're like, you try to figure that out, and it always points back to social media. It's not what worked before. It's not sad. Like featured a headliner.
No, that doesn't happen.
It's not feature.
A lot of people say that to me too. They're like, you performed at all the clubs. All these clubs are seeing you. Yeah. And I'm doing a good job and they like me and they would have me back to feature and maybe one-nighters, like I said. But if you're not selling tickets, they don't want you for the weekend for the most part. Maybe if you have a big touring agent or you have a really good credit, you can do it. But
like, do you want to compete for there's a lineup at the clubs we all want to perform at. The small percentage they put to the people who are funny that don't sell tickets.
Right.
Your goal should not be to compete with them.
Right.
It's great if you can.
Yeah.
But that can't be your goal because that's too small a slot.
It's very competitive. It's a small slot.
It doesn't lead anywhere.
Yeah, it's great. I'm not hating on those people.
No, I think
they're doing everything we want to be doing.
And those are the people I want to see when I'm at the club. I want to see that little group.
Sometimes they're the funniest ones.
Yeah, usually.
But yeah, the goal should be, unfortunately, like I don't love social media. Like I said, it's unhealthy and gives me that high, but that's what I love and hate about it. But unfortunately, if your goal is to make it as a comedian, this is a business podcast. Yeah, we've talked a lot of like business, but yeah, it's getting a following and selling tickets. Like I opened up for Namesh Patel at the ACC in San Diego, huge. And he has every show he sold out 5 shows. He was very funny, killed it, nice guy. It was all from TikTok. He has like 600,000 TikTok followers. Sold it out. That's what you got to do.
Yeah.
That's what you got to do what you really want to do, which is go around and headline.
Right. That and the successful like Theo Von level podcast is also a great way to do that.
Oh, sure. I'm lumping these all together.
That goes hand in hand.
I'm lumping these all together. So whether it's podcast, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. If you have a giant Twitter audience, you could make it off that. There's not like one way to. I don't know how to do it, or I would have done it. There's not one way to do it, but TikTok seems to be the one now that you have your best shot of like getting a natural viral clip, if that makes sense.
Yeah, the algorithm is so much more mysterious, and it just like it like chooses people.
YouTube is my favorite though. YouTube is the one where people are finding clips of mine from 5 years ago, and like it kind of builds upon itself, if that makes sense. Because TikTok, if you stop posting for a month, your account's not going to grow.
Right.
YouTube, if you have a video, if you have 2 years worth of videos, your count still grows from that.
It's a snowball.
Yeah, it keeps going.
So I watched your Laugh Factory clip before this episode.
Yeah. See? So it's like, to me, YouTube is my favorite. It's the one that excites me when I get more followers on YouTube or when a video pops on YouTube.
Oh, when I get the notification you got 1 YouTube follower today, I'm like, boom. Yeah. Like it's just like, it's so hard to get followers on YouTube right now. But like you said, it's the momentum of it, and it feels the most business-like, the most based in reality. It's like video views, monetize, it's all like linear thinking.
And to me, my YouTube page is like a portfolio of the work I've done, if that makes sense. Like social media is too, but no one's gonna scroll back to your old social media clips from years ago. Some people will, but less likely at YouTube when they find you, like, oh look, he's got his podcast, he's got his stand-up, he's got his clips. It's like organized. I don't know. I kind of like it.
You can go to like a newly famous Instagram person, like someone, let's say, who has 200,000 followers now, but last year had like 3,000. And you go back to their old, I don't know why I've done this, but you can go back to their old posts and videos, and they're not up.
Right. They'll have 200 views.
Totally.
It's interesting. Likes, I've done it too. I think a lot of people have. It's kind of interesting to see. And yeah, it's
a feed the beast mentality where YouTube is, no surprise, Google based. So it's search based.
Right, exactly.
So it's like you find things.
Right. There's SEO tools for
SEO
it.
Tools.
There's keywords, there's tags.
It's grown up.
Yeah, it's grown up. Yet also tons of kids on it. But so I post everywhere, but YouTube I think is the one where if I had my choice of how I made it as a comedian, it would be a YouTube follower more than Instagram or TikTok. And
if you look at Mark's page, have you seen his channel? The amount of time he dedicates to it, to making his YouTube big.
Oh yeah, when I filmed his set impressive. When I opened for him, and he like instantly put it out there, and he has a team now. Like he has a guy who helps him with it. It's cool, and Mark is the coolest guy ever. Yeah, no, of all the people I've opened for, he's the most chill. He has all the chill.
He has like no ego. He's very relaxed, and he's like, but he's one of the funniest people working, and amazing work. The work ethic to him, like I can't believe it.
Writes every day, prolific as fuck, super chill, super funny. He, when I was with him in Portland like a month ago, some comedian recognized him on the street and was like, "Hey, I'm starting an open mic right now. You want to go up?" Went in there, did this bombed at this shitty open mic. Yeah. And I say bombed, like he was hilarious. It was just a shitty open mic and no one knew who he was. But it was, I don't know another headliner that would have done that.
Yeah, and I think
at his level. I don't know another headliner at his level personally that would have just walked into that shitty open mic and eaten shit for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I was inspired by his attitude towards that when I was featuring for Ivan Decker at Wise Guys. These same thing happened. They're like, "Hey, do you guys want to come to our bar open mic?" And they kind of like half said, "Oh, you don't want to go," and they answered the question for themselves. I'm like, "No, let's go." And then we all went and did it. I think we stood like in front of like a pool table and did it and hung out, and it was great. It was fun. It was like it's something to do.
I don't think I would. If I was where Mark was at, I'd be like, I'm good. But that's why I'm not where Mark's at.
Not necessarily. It's not for everyone.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I've gotten to the point now where I am a little pickier. Like I don't want to wait an hour and a half. I mean, he went right up, but I don't want to wait an hour at an open mic to go up to do 3 minutes for like 10 comedians on their phones. I don't want to do that. If it's like, I'll try people's shows, but If it's a really shitty show, I'm not doing it again. I'm not driving to Ventura for like a 10-minute unpaid spot nowadays. I've gotten a little...
Well, time is money, and you're figuring...
I've gotten a little pickier, but maybe that's the wrong attitude. I'm always have that internal debate, like, maybe I should be driving to San Diego for the 7-minute unpaid spots just to get more stage time. But
I think there's no right answer, and that's what's great about it. Because if there was a little sheet right now, we could come up with the list. Everyone would just run with that list and be like, "What's next?" Well, the last question, since you're the podcast expert,
do
you think?
And I will say I am. Normally, when someone calls me an expert in anything, no, I don't know what I'm talking about. I am.
You know what you're talking about. I mean, your credentials on this are legit.
Yeah, I think they are.
Do you think the Buddy podcast is a better system than the interview podcast if you're trying to build a following?
It's a catch-22. So you're talking, but when you say buddy podcast, you mean like Bad Friends, Fighter and the Kid, like two people?
Yeah, two people, like two comedians doing being funny every week, only them.
I think,
or
in
the
a
interview.
perfect situation, you'd have both.
This is why you have it.
I've been thinking about this question too, because I have a solo interview podcast, but I think I want to start a new podcast, like a buddy podcast that has guests sometimes, because when you have a big guest, it is good for the numbers.
Yeah.
It is fun to interview new people, especially if it's someone you look up to or whatever. That is a cool thing to do. It is good for getting clips with those people, which are also fun to post, which I like doing. But having a buddy is great because then you don't need to rely on booking if you can't book someone that week. And you could generate content for yourselves to post on your Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that. But it's like,
and they're there for the hang. Like, I feel like you have more fans. Like, for example, Mark Norman's one of my biggest episodes. Mm-hmm. But, I don't know if like it's translating to permanent fans or just his fans.
And I think it does, but a little bit.
But like a little bit.
Yeah.
But like it's just like how YouTube grows slowly in the background. The buddy pod grows slowly over time. And those people can,
but then again, on the other hand, it's so competitive.
It's true.
So a buddy podcast these days with two nobodies, and I'm counting myself as a nobody. So I'm not insulting
like two
anyone.
non-TV famous
people without a following.
Yeah.
It is like, this is my own like ego and caring about what people think thing. But when I see these like open mic comics posting buddy podcast clips that get 40 views on their Instagram, I'm like, I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah.
But maybe fuck that. You just got to do it. You also hear people going, I get this a lot from people. They say, yeah, like maybe I should do a podcast, but everybody has a podcast.
Right.
You hear that a lot. Everybody does stand-up. Everyone's here being an actor. Everyone makes music.
Everyone's trying to play basketball.
Like, that's the worst attitude ever. Like,
that's what got me starting my pod, was that like someone said that same thing. It's like, yes, so what? Everyone has everything.
If that's what you want to do, you got to do it.
Yeah.
You're not gonna. Yeah, you could make that same excuse for doing stand-up.
And I
comedy.
would have done my pod a year earlier if I didn't just like ho-hum about that very question.
Right.
And then I'd be a year more of that snowball.
Yeah. So someone listening to this might go, yeah, I want to do a podcast, but look at this podcast. Everyone's got one.
Yeah, this podcast is already so good. How could I compete?
My parents told me that when I told them I wanted to do stand-up. It's very competitive. There's a lot of people trying to do stand-ups.
I mean, getting into law school is competitive. Being a doctor is competitive.
When you move to LA, every single person I've ever met in LA has headshots and is an actor. Every waiter, every bartender. Oh, I'm an actor.
Yeah. I was at a dentist and they're fixing my tooth. He's like, oh, I'm a musician. I'm performing at the Hollywood Bowl. I was like, fix the tooth,
for
guy.
real. Oh, dude, I was doing La Jolla Comedy Store, and I was opening for Lucas Hurl and Josh Martin, and the host that they brought was their dentist.
Nice.
Straight up. I'm like, who's this host? He's like, oh, he fixes our teeth for free, so he's hosting.
That's amazing.
So everyone does everything, and if you have that attitude, like, it's too competitive, you're probably right, but you still got to go for it if that's what you want to be doing.
Great place to end. Ari Mannis, thank you so much.
Thanks.
Plug your stuff. Me. Tell us where to find you.
Was this podcast like too, I'll be honest, I haven't listened to your other episodes. Was this podcast like too business heavy?
The one we did?
Just now. This exact
No,
podcast.
This is actually, I thought this was great.
Was it too inside baseball, or should we have, are most of your podcasts more joking around?
No, it's not a jokey. It's about, this is about what we do.
Okay. I wonder if I sounded, whatever. I'm just going to be confident that was a great podcast.
It was very good.
It was good. Very informative.
Right. By the time, it'll only be 15 minutes once I edit it out.
If you'd like to see me more of a loose, more material and jokey joke, just check me out Search my name. I'm everywhere. Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, super
Facebook,
funny. Check out his
YouTube,
podcast, Unlicensed Therapy. The apartment show, maybe it comes back, or is it done?
It's coming back. I don't know if it'll come back as a regular occurrence, but I just had... Have you heard of the band Carolina Liar?
No.
They had one hit. Anyway, I had him on my podcast, and he said he would do my apartment show, so I want to bring it back solely to have him do music in my apartment.
No better reason. Mm-hmm. Well, thanks again.
Thank you for having me.